Hello, this is Dr. Signorelli in Behavioral Health Management. Today I am going to try to show you in as simple a way as possible how to make a control chart and also to just speak to you a little bit about basic options for visual displays of data in Excel. A lot of people are afraid of Excel, and if you don't have a lot of experience with it, I'm here to tell you that it's actually very helpful and very simple if you take it a step at a time. For the purposes of today, we're predominantly going to be working in the formulas and data arenas. So, without further ado, I'm going to start by showing you some basic types of charting in Excel. So if you look on my spreadsheet, I have some very simple data here, month and patients. And just by clicking through some of the options available on Excel, I'm going to show you what may be possible. So if I go to the Insert tab, there it, just lost my bar. There we go. It should come back. If I go to the Insert tab, you'll see a section called Recommended Charts. If you double click on this, it will go through each type of chart and see below here it explains to you how and why it is helpful and what it does. So clustered column chart, looking at values across several categories. The pie chart is very common. It is showing this data in all of these charts right now. How things change from the parts to the whole over time. You can see trend line and which months, see, from top to bottom. So the largest patient volume month was in April, going down. So if you check these out, I suggest that you play with them a little bit. They're scatter charts. It shows you different types. You can choose whether you want data markers or not. Then really all different kinds of charts to show visually the data that you have. So that area is helpful just because it explains specifically. Now today we're not going to deal with pivot tables. That I can show you in another video, but here is another way to access the charts. So I can choose different ways, and if you look at the top, once you click on a particular type, it will show you different ways of showing that data. You can customize this to how you want it to display. That is one example. Then let me show you how that same data may look if I choose a pie chart. I'll choose a simple 2D chart for the moment. So when you are in the pie chart, it also has some options for design. So you can look, you can add it with percentages. You can change the coloring and how it displays. You can have it very simple. You can have the numbers on, you can have the numbers off, you can change the colors. Um, so my suggestion to you is that you go back, think about the type of data that you want to display, look through the recommended charts, and choose one and see if that's what you want to show. Is it a trend line? Is it how it changes over time? Is it a percentage? Um, all of these display data in many different ways, and it depends on the story you're trying to tell. Excel makes it very simple by putting all of that very easily at your service. So that being said, I am now going to proceed to show you how to do a control chart. Now, a control chart is very useful both for determining trends but also for identifying potential outliers. So an outlier would be defined as being more than 3 standard deviations from the mean. So the elements in a control chart in regard to the data is we have a central line, otherwise known as the mean, and then we have upper control limits, or the UCL, which is the average of the data plus 3 times the standard deviation. The lower control limit is basically the same formula, but it's the average of all these scores, or the mean, minus the standard deviation times 3, or 3 times standard deviation. So you might see that I've made a small little box chart over here. This makes calculating the mean and upper and lower control limits to populate the chart much simpler. So if we want to calculate the mean, the easiest way to do so is to click in the cell H3 and then go and click in the formula section. And please make sure your screen is in full view, because notice how that formulas thing checked out when I made it smaller. So you want it in full view. You're going to hit more functions, statistical, and we're shooting for the mean, otherwise known as the average. So when I click that, it places the formula in that box. Now here, it's asking me, what do I want to make a mean of? What data? So I'm going to click B3 all the way to B14, my sample data, and you see it populates in this box here, and I'm going to click OK. When I do that, it populates the mean here, which will be very helpful in a moment, and you'll see why. Now, we're going to click in the standard deviation box for the same data. Okay. And we are going to go back to the formula bar, click More Functions, Statistical, and now we're going to go down to these, lost it, hold on one moment. So we're going to go down to the standard deviation section. So there's several types, but the two most commonly used are standard deviation P for population or standard deviation S for sample. Because we only have a small amount of sample data, standard deviation .S for sample is the formula we're going to choose. So again, here I am in this, but what I really want to do is highlight this. So I'm going to highlight all of this, and we once again have B3 to B14 because that's my sample data, and I'm clicking OK. Whoop. Hold on, every once in a while this happens. I'm going to click out and do that again. So here I am in the formula box. I'm going to click statistical and go down to standard deviation again. You have to be careful to hold everything down. And then I'm going up. I see why. There is a circular reference here. I can't have 0 in that column. So I'm going to cancel out of this. And I'm going to clear the contents of this cell here. Okay. Because I don't want that formula there right now. That was a 0 value, and that will not work because it will times itself. So I've replaced that with 25. Let's go back. So statistical, standard deviation of a sample. Here we go. And now we've got 59.43. Just be careful of having any 0 values, unless there is one, but it will make a difference in your standard deviation or your mean. So at any rate, now that we have that, I am going to we want to populate our central line. So that is otherwise known as the mean or average. So I'm going to click in the first cell. I'm going to do an equal sign to indicate I'm doing a formula here. And I'm actually going to go over and just click in that mean box. So that is H3. So it's saying that value is going to go for this cell, but we really want that mean to stay constant and it be an absolute value. So I'm going to input the sign for that, which is a $sign between the H and the 3. And you see this little grab thing here? I'm going to pull that all the way down, and that has now just populated all the scores for our central line. Now we're going to do the same for the upper control limit. So here I've placed what the formula is, which is the mean or average plus the standard deviation times 3. The asterisk is used in lieu of an X for times in Excel. So I'm going to go back to that box again, hit an equal sign to indicate a formula. Then the next part is the average. So I'm going to click on that box here, H3. Now I'm going to type a plus sign. And then I'm going to put an open bracket. Now here's where my standard deviation comes in. So I'm going to click on the standard deviation. And now I'm going to do my asterisk times 3 and close brackets. Now because again I want this to be an absolute value, I'm going to input that $sign in between the H and the 3 and the H and the 4 for those cells to indicate that it's going to be pulled all the way down. So there we go. We've just populated our upper control limit. Last one is the lower control limit, or the average minus standard deviation times 3. Back I go again in that cell with an equals to start a formula. I'm going to click the mean. Now I'm going to hit the minus sign, open brackets, click on the standard deviation, indicate the asterisk for times 3, then close brackets, and now I'm going to grab that material and bring it all the way down. Whoop, something didn't work right there. So bear with me 1 second. I'm going to click back one, and we will redo that because that should transfer all the way down. No, I'm going to clear the contents. When something doesn't make sense, clear contents is your friend. So right click and hit clear contents. So equals, then the average minus, open bracket, standard deviation times 3, close bracket, enter. Now when I hit back up here, I'm going to put those dollar signs in. Sometimes it's a simple matter of having just hit something without realizing it. So you can put those dollar signs in right in the cell, or you can do it up in the bar up here. Now again, I'm going to grab it and pull it all the way down. And it populated correctly this time. So now I have all my data. What is it that I would like to do? So I am going to grab all this data right now. And the easiest way to do this is to go back to the charts. And if I go to my line chart and I click on the first one, there you go. That is my control chart. Now again, I can change how this looks. I have a lot of options. I can put my chart title in. I can add markers. And if you see up here on the design, again, it will show you varying kinds of control charts. You pick what you think illustrates the story best for you. For my mind, I think simpler is better. So that first one worked quite well. You can also have markers. So there's a variety of things that you can do. Cut this out now. So again, you would just go into your line charts here, and that will show you a very nice control chart with your up. It would if I had selected the data. Always remember to select your data first. I'll cut that out again. There we go. So again, it's just selecting the data involved, choosing your line graph, which is going to show you the upper and lower control limits. To me, this is the simplest and clearest one. And so you see we have no outliers here because all of the data is between the upper and lower control limits and roughly around the mean. If you have over 7 values in a row in one direction, above the mean or below the mean, that indicates something that may indicate outliers or a strong trend. Now, I am going to show you how to do a histogram. So a histogram is very helpful when you want to group data according to certain buckets. Here I call them labels. So if I want to know exactly how much, and for a moment I'm going to hide this column. So I'm going to keep this fairly simple. If I want to see how my data is grouped according to particular labels, I can see that in a histogram. So again, I can take that data. Actually, I'm just going to take this for the moment. And I can use my data tab. There's different ways of doing this, but here is data analysis up in this area. If you do not have this in your upper right corner, you may have to install your data pack. To install your data pack, just go over to File, then Options, then you're going to go to the Add-ins section. You're going to click on Analysis Tool Pack, come down here and hit the Go button. It will bring you this. Make sure all of them are checked. Mine is already in place, so they're already checked. And then this should appear. If it does not, sometimes you have to go and refresh everything.